We've now come to the final portion of the evening where we present, there's two presentations for the Circle of Honor. The first inductee is to Michael Cole. And I would invite Governor Kane to the stage, who will be presenting the awards. As is normal our practice, we have a video that we will present, and the video for Michael Cole will go first, and then Governor Kane will make a presentation to the family. Please roll the video.
I'll just say one or two words before we present the award, but we live in a very difficult time. You all know that. We don't unite on anything. Republicans and Democrats don't talk to each other. People are so divided sometimes within families. They don't talk to each other. People in general have little respect for any institutions at all. It's a very, very difficult time. And I think sometimes in difficult times, you go back and look at people who surmounted those kind of issues in their own time. When I appointed Mike Cole to be my counsel, I never asked him whether he was a Republican or a Democrat. I didn't care. I knew he was Mike Cole. And that's what I wanted. I wanted the kind of person you just heard about. I was a Republican governor serving with a Democratic legislature. I think in the time Mike was counsel, we lost only one major bill in all that time, and that major bill was declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court when they reviewed it. So I think if you look back to a person like Mike and try to see what he did in his bipartisan work, in his work from the heart, somebody who cared so very much about the most important issues before the state and before its people, somehow we've got to take that as an example and get back to that kind of person. John Kennedy said once, it's people. Every problem we have was created by people. So the only way we can solve them is by getting good people. Mike Cole was really good people.
Accepting the award on Mike Cole's behalf is his daughter, Elise Cole. Please go ahead.
I'm a little emotional from that video, so thank you. And thank you so much, Governor, for your gracious words. On behalf of the Cole family, it is both a privilege and an honor to accept this award for my late father, Michael Cole. I think you saw a lot of who he was in this video and the testimony and the heartfelt stories. When I was preparing the words for tonight, I kept trying to think of ways to sum up my father's life, and I kept coming back to one thought. Never will you meet a man who more faithfully lived his values each and every day. The man that you heard about in this video, the man that you worked with in more public spheres or professional spheres, is who he was personally. He was the same man even in his most private moments. As his daughter, he taught me by example to choose the right over the convenient, to always act with humility and compassion towards others, and to be truthful in word, thought, and deed. Throughout my life, when faced with an ethical dilemma, I could always ground myself with one simple question. What would my dad do? His character is the foundation of my conscience. He lived a life of service, and as you heard just now, was always a man of his word. I never heard him intentionally deceive or misrepresent, except in one very important instance, which Janie talked about. Tonight, we're gathered in recognition of the one time that my dad broke his word. A promise he made when leaving government, never to lobby his former colleagues in the executive or legislative branches. A promise that he providentially broke to the great benefit of many of our states impoverished and vulnerable, when he committed himself fully to securing and maintaining funding for this very important organization. Legal services was a cause which captured my father's heart and mind. He believed deeply in the goal of equal justice for all. Too often, he said, it is easier for the poor to just give up or avoid the fight, simply because there was no one there to help them against a seemingly more powerful adversary. He wanted to make sure the impoverished always had an advocate to whom they could turn in times of legal peril. And he worked tirelessly to inspire others, like everyone here, in that fight. In many ways, his efforts on behalf of legal services of New Jersey and in furtherance of equal justice for all was what he considered his life's work. Looking back, it was where he felt his contribution had the greatest and most positive impact. As Janie also described, my father felt just as passionately that support for legal services should not be a partisan issue. Governor Kane shared some very nice anecdotes about that. And my father wholeheartedly agreed. Equal justice should transcend politics. And he fought hard to make sure that others saw it the same way. While it might be difficult to imagine in today's fractured world, as described in the video and in the stories, the bill to secure legal services funding was truly bipartisan. My father worked hard to make that happen. For him, it was not just the right thing to do, it was the best way to ensure continued support and backing for legal services well into the future. And so I will close by thanking Legal Services of New Jersey, the Board of Directors, and the many esteemed contributors here tonight, not just for this award, but for the important work you do every single day to provide equal justice to the disadvantaged in New Jersey. As my father said and encouraged, stay in the fight. This is a just and noble cause, worthy of our courage and our determination. Thank you.
Okay, so we are at our final presentation where we'll do the induction in the Circle of Honor to Judge Rodriguez. We will first watch a video and then call Governor Kane back up to make the presentation. Roll the video, please.
I was saying, by the way, that I ran for state office more than 50 years ago, and I've known wonderful, wonderful people in and out of state government ever since. Joe Rodriguez and Mike Cole are probably the two finest people I've ever known in or out of government, both of them. And again, it's a different time, but when I asked Joe to serve in my cabinet, I never asked him whether he was a Republican or a Democrat, and I didn't know. Somebody told me later he was one of each from time to time, but, but I never asked the question. And I knew the kind of work he'd been doing. We had in those days a public advocate. And I thought, well, Joe Rodriguez has been a public advocate without the title, so why not make him do it officially? Which I did. And he turned out to be a wonderful public advocate. And interestingly enough, he had such a personality, he'd sue people. You know, public advocate was even suing fellow members of the cabinet from time to time. But Joe was so sincere and such a wonderful human being, nobody ever took it badly. Oh, Joe's suing me, all right. But I remember when I recommended him to the president for federal judicial, to be a federal judge, the nomination got in, and then some nasty groups in New Jersey of some sort wrote letters against him. And Chairman Hatch, his Judiciary Committee, held up the nomination. And I called up and said, what the hell is going on? And Hatch said, well, I got these letters. I said, I'm coming down to Washington. So when Joe went down the next town to hearing, I went down with him. And I wanted to see Senator Hatch. And Senator Hatch said, I owe you a terrible apology. And I owe Judge Rodriguez an apology too. And I said, why? He said, because I did investigations, and so those letters came in. This is one of the finest nominees to be a judge that I've ever come across. And he was, of course, was approved unanimously. But this was and is a wonderful, wonderful man. And I couldn't thank you more for giving him this award. It's nothing. We've had a lot of awardees over the years. Nobody has deserved it more than Joe Rodriguez. So thank you very much.
So, ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Joseph Rodriguez.
After such generous remarks, I'm sure what's going through your mind is the best thing he could do is just sit down. Which I have every intention to do. I mean, there's so many thanks that I can state from here. I had a few words written down, but as the evening developed, I realized that the most important thing I can do is to thank the committee that was so generous in nominating me for this award. And the other is to thank those who came and took the time to be here. I have recognized members of the New Jersey Supreme Court, the Third Circuit Court of Appeals, and I know there's a Third Circuit judge writing down what I'm saying to determine whether there's anything that could be reversed. But Tom, Governor Kane kind of really struck a note, because going back to the history of legal services, the time when the water was not in a position to favor legal service, there were those who stood up and came forward and were willing to put their names on the line to do what was important to aid the homeless. You saw them speak here tonight on the film, and they're here tonight. Pete O'Connor and Carl Biscayne, who are all the way in the back of the room, who were the authors of the Mount Laurel opinion, and that came out of Camden. And so much came out of Camden. There was a lot that had to be done. I never dreamed that one afternoon I would receive a call from a candidate, not of my political party, asking for a meeting if we could just chat. And we did. And that person was Tom Kane. When I spoke with him, I saw a genuine person, one that transcends political principles in the sense that you do what's right regardless of where the ball falls when you take an oath of office to do your job, and your job requires sometimes to absorb some criticism. And I was privileged to serve in his cabinet, and I can say it was a great experience because of all the calamities you hear about politics. I can say that we had a term without a single scandal because of the leadership of Tom Kean. And I was proud to work with him at that time. So you can see that the best thing I can do is not to try to expand on anything that's been said because I just can't do it. I'm overwhelmed by it. But to give thanks to those who made it possible to spend all that time working for good causes. And they accepted the good causes. And I'm speaking about my family who are here tonight. I have 4 daughters, Lisa, Barbara, Joanne, and Kristen. They're all here. And of course, some of their spouses are here. The whole family couldn't be here because we have 10 grandchildren and 6 great-grandchildren. And if you mean that you need support, you couldn't possibly accomplish it with the size of that family without a wife who understands what it is you're doing. And my wife, Barbara, of 69 years of marriage, is here tonight also. So the foundation of the support, and I know I will leave a lot of people out who deserve to be acknowledged, but that would be impossible under the circumstances. But to talk about history, there are 2 here who supported me going back to the 60s, and that's Carlos Ortiz from Goya and Carl Poplar that you saw in the film. That's the support that you need. But having a wife of 69 years, we're both over 90, and we still get along great. She laughs at my jokes. And I said, when she stops laughing, we may be in trouble. But really, they say, well, you seem to be getting along. We've laughed and danced our entire marriage. But now at our age, in the morning, she reaches over and tenderly touches me. I reach and tenderly touch her. And they said, oh, that's so sweet. I said, no, we want to make sure we're both still alive. See, it's because that laughter is the glue that keeps us together for so many years. But no, really, I don't want to take any more of your time. I think if you can accept what you've heard, and for me, it's a moving occasion because members of the judiciary are not permitted, obviously, to be involved in politics. But there isn't a day goes by when I take the bench that I don't in my heart thank Tom Kean. Thank you.